Time for coffee. Ugh.
Today is a big day because we finally are going to make it into Alaska. I'm probably about 50 miles from the border at this point, riding the top of the world highway in the Yukon through into Alaska. This is a big day. It's been a long time coming, and it's not the destination, but the journey that counts. From the border, the road snakes its way southwest through vast, expansive lands, untamed rivers, and boreal forests as far as the eye can see. It is a landscape of optimism, health, and vitality. And you can't help getting drawn into the fabric of the great Alaskan wilderness. It simply engulfs you completely. Life on the road is to a degree influenced by weather. It's raining. And if you come to Alaska expecting nothing but sunshine, I think you'd be disappointed. To date, I had experienced months of favorable conditions, having followed spring and summer temperatures through the northerly latitudes. September in Alaska is generally a very stable month when clear skies and relatively warm days replace wet, buggy summer conditions and make way for cool, darkening evenings and an increased likelihood of seeing the aurora borealis, also known as the Northern Lights. September also signaled the time I would be spending with my friend Linus up in the Fairbanks area for a few weeks of adventuring together. Until then, 2 open weeks lay ahead, and I decided to spend them exploring the breathtakingly beautiful mountainous areas of Wrangell, St. Elias, and Valdez. Heading south proved to be a well-timed decision, as tumultuous weather patterns were plaguing the great state elsewhere and would persist for a good portion of the 6 weeks I spent in Alaska. The staggering 13 million acre Wrangell St. Elias range is by far the single largest national park in the US. In fact, 7 out of the top 10 largest US national parks can be found in Alaska. The majority of these lands are untouched, true wilderness, remote and inaccessible except by bush or float plain. It is a land of extremes. Over a quarter of the park is covered by glaciers, while volcanic activity contributes to some massive lava fields. Long, dark winters and short, abundant summers mean wildlife populations live an intense existence. Larger animals include bears, caribou, moose, wolves, foxes, and Dall's sheep, to name a few. There are only 2 dirt roads that access the Wrangell St. Elias Park, one to Nebezna and the other to McCarthy, home to the famed Kennecott copper mine, which closed in 1938 and is now a museum. I elected to explore the Nebezna side of the Wrangells, having formerly visited the Kennecott mine on a previous trip. As my van is only 2-wheel drive, I safely parked and made camp a short way down the Nebezna road and explored the remainder of the 42 miles on motorcycle, which is so much more capable than anything else on these rough roads and can access areas that no amount of 4-wheel drive can negotiate. Hiking gear goes with me on every bike ride, and on this occasion it was a trail at mile marker 37 that drew my attention. This is called the Skookum Volcano Trail and follows this beautiful little water course, then up a steep incline to a pass about 2 miles from here. This is a fairly rugged, undefined trail, so we'll see how it unfolds. Look at that. Stunning. Simply spectacular formations up here. On returning from the Skookum Volcano Trail today, I met Aaron. He's a local, native Alaskan and a hunter who had spent the last week high up in the mountains tracking Dal's sheep. One of the biggest blunders of this trip, though, was realizing that having had this wonderful, informative conversation with Aaron for half an hour, that I had neglected to turn on the microphone. My goodness. So anyway, suffice to say, Aaron's hunt up there in the mountains was successful, but it took him a week to selectively monitor the herd, choose an appropriate aged male, and that can be determined by the curl of the horn. And from 700 yards, dropped this animal. Loaded up that 60 pounds of additional meat in his already heavy backpack and hiked the long, arduous hike back out to his vehicle. As a subsistence hunter, he gets to take meat home to his family to make it through a long, hard winter. As much as I am not a hunter myself and would rather shoot an animal with a camera, I have great respect for Aaron.
If you would like to show further support for Roads and Rivers and access exclusive material, then visit my Patreon page. Next, it was on to Valdez, a coastal town nestled into a protective bay in Prince William Sound, flanked by the majestic Chugach mountain range and renowned for its abundant marine life.
What kind of salmon are these?
Sockeye.
They got a kind of a short little tail, don't they?
They were marked, their tails are marked, so they cannot be sold. That's a mark that says they are for subsistence use only. You can't buy them, sell them, trade them.
Thompson Pass marks the gateway to the Valdez area, and not only offers spectacular, far-reaching vistas, but numerous accessible hiking opportunities. Worthington Glacier is a short distance from the pass and a great place to begin explorations. Though Valdez has mild temperatures by Alaskan standards due to oceanic effects, it is often a wet location, receiving double the annual US rainfall, much of it in the form of snow. A full week of glorious weather, though, made this visit to the area a truly memorable experience. Valdes Glacier Lake is only a 20-minute drive from town and a fascinating place to explore by kayak. Allocate about 4 hours and a 6-mile round-trip paddle to negotiate the lake's maze of icebergs for access to the terminal head wall of the glacier. This lake is 600 feet deep. And don't be fooled by their static appearance. They are moving. This is an ever-changing landscape every day, so finding a passage through here, it may not be the same if you came back the next day. The Valdes Glacier Valley is 20 miles long and originates high up in the Chugach Mountains. Historically, it was the access route to the interior of Alaska for gold seekers during the 1898 gold rush. The grinding action of this slow-moving river of ice, as it advanced and receded over the millennia, is what has formed this impressive U-shaped valley. Well, that's one way to see the glacier for sure. A small lake 20 minutes from town acted as a base camp for the next few days, and it was here that I got to meet Joe, who agreed to take me aboard his aquatic grass harvesting machine. This unique contraption cuts and extracts lake bed eelgrass that would otherwise slowly overtake and choke the free-flowing lake waters, a breeding ground and nursery for salmon. Cutting blades scissor back and forth just above the lake bed, while a conveyor belt scoops up the severed grass and deposits it in a holding bay. The slow process and the extent of the project means Joe has job security and an enviable view from his office seat. Across the bay from Valdez, the Abercrombie River was thick with salmon returning to their native spawning grounds. As a youngster, fishing was a passion, and salmon were the ultimate prize. I was fascinated by their unique life cycle, which begins in freshwater rivers and lakes. Then several years are spent in the ocean, growing to sexual maturity, before once more returning to native waters to spawn and die, using a highly developed sense of smell.
All of these dead fish just littering what used to be a small rivulet of water coming down here off the mountain. Rather smelly too.
As I ventured further up the Abercrombie, bear tracks were everywhere. An indelible childhood memory persists of the time I participated in landing an 11-pound king salmon from the River Esk in Scotland. Wonderful sight to see, I must say. Super impressive act of nature. At the Solomon Gulch Fish Hatchery, where many of these salmon began life, the scene was even more astounding. Millions of fish pooled in the waters below, attempting to make a last-ditch effort towards reproductive success. I had never witnessed a natural phenomenon of this magnitude before, and couldn't help being awed by the sight. There are simply far more salmon than there is physical room in this location, and excess fish make easy feasting opportunities for seagulls, bears, and sea lions, and at low tide the beaches are littered with the carnage. For bears, it is a time to emerge from the protective cover of the surrounding thicket and fatten up before winter sets in. They seem undeterred by all of the human activity in the area, emboldened at times and potentially dangerous as a result. No visit to Valdez would be complete without a trip into the majestic Prince William Sound and a chance to see the surrounding natural beauty from a very different perspective. It is also an opportunity to encounter abundant marine life and receive a wealth of local knowledge and history from boat captains over the course of a day's outing. This particular voyage included a stop at the terminal head wall of the Valdes Glacier, an impressive sight indeed. Fall was well underway when Linus and I ventured down to Denali National Park with the intention of pack rafting several rivers in the area, namely the Nenana, Riley Creek, Brushcana Creek, and Jack Creek.
We woke up this morning and we had a beautiful blue sky and lots of sunshine, and that was really nice, but now it's starting to cloud over, but no big deal. We're headed to Riley Creek, and then we're going to float back down. Supposed to be a class 3 paddle back to the highway, about 6-7 miles. So uphill trail here through the forest. Keep our eyes peeled for bears. Well, here we are, Riley Creek, Denali National Park. 3-mile hike, felt more like 6.
You ready for this trip, Linus?
Hell no.
Pack rafting is a straightforward solution to accessing more remote bodies of water, with an inflatable boat that's compact and light enough to put in a backpack or on a bike.
Hey, here we go. Riley Creek.
Has stowage space for gear and is durable enough to tackle challenging river conditions. It is the perfect companion for wilderness adventure, as rivers are often the only way into remote areas.
We've got a big hole up here, or 2.
With all the rain that had dropped over the last couple of weeks, rivers were swollen and running fast. Our appetite for adventure began with a day trip down a section of the formidable Nenana River before tackling Riley Creek, a more remote, challenging Class 3 wilderness paddle. Once on this river, you're committed to the run, as opportunities for eddying out are infrequent, and cold glacial water meant we had to remain fully attentive to objective hazards and focus on our lines. Capsizing could be catastrophic, and the potential for a long, cold swim, even with a dry suit on, could result in hypothermia.
This is my Alaska River backcountry guide, Chris Gavin. Chris, lead the way, buddy.
Having a buddy in a situation like this is not only practical, fun and confidence boosting, but in reality, we both knew that if either of us took a spill, it may be very difficult for the other to effect a rescue.
I said that was awesome, but there was a couple of moments where the river almost got me. But thankfully it didn't.
This is the nature of adventure, where risk is pitted against reward. Confident of our abilities, yet able to acknowledge the limits to which we are prepared to go.
Splashy, splashy. Oh yeah.
Gut instinct is often a good indicator, and sometimes it just makes sense to say no to a goal that seemed so close and attainable. Both Linus and I have had a lot of experience in such situations, and age and experience now tempers our judgment. Riley Creek definitely pushed us, and the dangers were real, but thankfully we prevailed without incident and emerged excited to tackle the next challenge.